Order, order. We start with questions. The Secretary of State for Wales, Carolyn Harris.
Question 1, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Good morning, Mr Speaker. Thank you. With your permission, Mr Speaker, I'll answer questions 1 and 11 together. Steelmaking is key to our missions to grow the economy and deliver clean power by 2030. We are committed to providing up to £2.5 billion for steel, in addition to the £500 million already earmarked for Tata to build their electric arc furnace at Port Talbot Steelworks. I was pleased to reaffirm at the budget £80 million funding for the Port Talbot Transition Board, which I chair. We will continue to deliver this money to people and businesses affected.
Carolyn Harris.
Unlike the previous government, this government is fully committed to enabling the £800 million transition fund to support former steelworkers. I recently visited the Steelworkers Support Centre in Port Talbot in the constituency of the Honourable Member for Aberfan-Maesteg. In the opening 4 weeks, they have helped almost 600 individuals, many of whom will be from Neath and Swansea East. Will the Secretary of State join me in thanking Community Union and the other organisations who have set up this centre and provide an update on the Transition Fund?
Secretary of State.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question, and I completely agree that the hub is great. I opened the hub last month, and Community Union and others have done a fabulous job with this one-stop shop to help support workers affected by the changes at Tata. This government is determined to do everything we can to support workers and businesses, and that's why this renewed partnership of governments, unions and the local council is working together to make sure the town gets what it needs. The funding from UK government is already making a difference via the Transition Board. We know there's a huge amount of work to do, but we're already seeing people successfully placed in new jobs as a direct result of the £13.5 million that we have made available so far.
Thompson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and can I also thank the Secretary of State for her hard work to support our steel industry and our general steel communities, including in Port Talbot, since she's been in post. I was pleased to see in the budget the Chancellor confirmed £80 million of funding for the Transition Board, which she chairs. Can she tell the House why this was necessary?
I thank my honourable friend for his question. In my first week as Welsh Secretary, I discovered that the £80 million promised by the previous Conservative government for the Transition Board was part of the £22 billion of unfunded promises they had made. A shocking dereliction of duty that threatened to leave workers and businesses high and dry without the support they needed. I have made it my mission, therefore, to fight tooth and nail for that money on behalf of our steel communities, and I would not have left them unsupported. I'm pleased to be able to confirm that under this Labour government, it's now fully funded and we're getting on with the delivery.
Can I welcome the new Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, Mims Davies.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. And at the outset, may I please pay tribute, as I come to the box for the first time in this role at Wales Questions, to my former private secretary in the Wales office, Debbie John, taken at a tender age due to pancreatic cancer. She and her family are in my thoughts today as I take up this role. She is much missed and very fondly remembered. Mr Speaker, the Right Honourable Lady, the Secretary of State, very clearly needs to acknowledge to this House that the deal for Tata Steel, recently re-announced by her UK government, is frankly identical to the one negotiated by my right honourable friend, now the leader of the opposition.
Can I welcome the Honourable Lady to her place and join with her in her comments about her former private office secretary. I think the Honourable Lady needs to read the deal that was reached by this government. The £1.25 billion transformation project at Port Talbot will deliver a state-of-the-art electric furnace, the contract for which has just been signed, in just under 10 weeks without providing any additional funding beyond the £500 million previously announced. We delivered a better deal. It secures the immediate future of Port Talbot, lays the foundations for future investment, and enhanced protections for the workforce in Port Talbot, Llanwern, Trostre and Shotton.
delighted the Honourable Lady read the deal that we wrote, but the facts are simple. Despite the protesting, Mr Speaker, this is the same deal as previously negotiated by the last Conservative government, involving the same amount of money to build on the electric arc furnace, the same cash for that transition board. It's ludicrous, frankly, for her or others to continue to claim there was no support in place and that it had somehow appeared that she found it down the back of the sofa. She's fully aware the cash had been sitting there the whole time. Perhaps an apology is needed. Also, too, for claiming that Port Talbot supplies the defence industry also with materials.
I have to say, Mr Speaker, I think if an apology is due, it's due to the people of Port Talbot for promising £80 million for a transition board that operated, I think, for 9 months under the previous Secretary of State for Wales and delivered not a single penny to the people of Port Talbot. And now we know why, because the £80 million didn't exist.
Liberal Democrat spokesperson David Chadwick.
The closure of the last blast furnace in Port Talbot has resulted in the loss of several thousand highly skilled jobs across South Wales, prompting another economic contraction across our region. The Global Centre for Rail Excellence at Ontloyn is one project that could reverse this trend of deindustrialisation and bring back good, well-paid jobs to South Wales. So will the Secretary of State confirm that the UK Government intends to make further investments towards this project and update us as to what conversations she's had to ensure that this project gets going?
Can I thank the honourable gentleman for his question? He will know from both the budget and the International Investment Summit that there are significant investments being made into Wales as a result of the work of this government. £63 billion announced at the Investment Summit, £1 billion to go into Shotton Mill in North Wales, the biggest investment in Wales, I think, for decades, and that will secure 300 jobs. It also means we will have the largest UK paper manufacture site in the whole of the United Kingdom. So we are growing the economy, creating jobs and delivering significant investment, and I'll certainly write to him about the rail project.
Antoniazzi.
Question number 2, Mr Speaker.
Secretary of State.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. With your permission, I'll answer questions 2 and 3 together. We have reset our relationship with the Welsh Government. Our approach is based on trust and mutual respect and is spearheaded by the new Council of the Nations and Regions, which met for the first time last month. My regular meetings with the First Minister of Wales are also driving forward our new partnership, which is already delivering for Wales, and this was evident in the biggest ever real terms budget settlement delivered for the Welsh Government last week.
I'd like to thank the Secretary of State for her response, and she has been clear that this Labour Government will build a new partnership with the Welsh Government based on cooperation, respect and delivery. Can she say how the Government will give meaning to the manifesto commitment to strengthen devolution?
Mr Speaker, the previous Conservative Government ran roughshod over the devolution settlement, including by legislating in devolved areas without consent on numerous occasions. This Government will respect the devolution settlement and work in partnership with all devolved governments. We will honour our manifesto commitment to do this by strengthening the Sewell Convention, including a new memorandum of understanding between our governments, ensuring that the petty squabbles of the past are confined to history and we can focus on delivering for the people of Wales.
Mark Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The Secretary of State has been very clear about the much-needed reset between the Welsh and UK governments. Can she also make clear how the recent budget has contributed to this reset?
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Our budget delivered for Wales for the first time in a generation because a £21 billion settlement announced last week is the largest settlement in real terms since the dawn of devolution. It will provide a record boost for the Welsh Government to support vital public services in Wales like the NHS. It includes £25 million to maintain the work to keep coal tips safe, as well as £320 million for investment zones in North Wales and South Wales to power our sector strengths like creative industries, life sciences and advanced manufacturing, such as our world-leading compound semiconductor cluster. This shows the difference to Labour governments working together.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. First of all, may I pay tribute to my friend who's just taken on the role of Shadow Secretary of State for Wales. A fantastic opportunity for her to champion a vital part of our union. But may I ask the Secretary of State, who's newly in her place, what is she going to do to make sure that the power that brings our union together comes out of Ynys Môn, that's Anglesey to her, so that she is able to make sure that the nuclear projects that keep us safe are actually properly invested in and not dropped as they have been by this Labour government? They control both sides of the M4 now. It's about time they delivered.
I wonder whether the right honourable gentleman has ever been to Anglesey, or Ynys Môn, as he describes it. I'm very eager to see new nuclear developments in North Wales, which will provide high-quality jobs across the region and drive economic growth. We recognise a nuclear future at Wilver could help deliver several of our strategic objectives, achieving net zero, energy independence and restoring economic prosperity across our nations and regions. Great British Nuclear completed the purchase of the site in June 2024, and we will make future announcements about it very soon.
Jim Allister.
Could the Secretary of State explain how you strengthen the union while maintaining a petitioning border in the Irish Sea at the behest of a foreign jurisdiction and under its laws?
State.
I'd refer the honourable gentleman to my previous answer about the resetting of the relationship with Welsh Government, working together, respecting the devolution settlement with all devolved governments.
Saville Roberts.
The Secretary of State talks about respecting the devolution settlement. Mark Drakeford wrote to the Chancellor ahead of the budget asking for a review of Wales's Barnett formula for transport funding, which had fallen from 81% in 2015 to 36% in 2021. But the budget revealed a further cut in Welsh transport comparability factor, now down to 33%. How come strengthening the union under Labour means that every major rail project in England results in Wales losing out?
We are having ongoing discussions, Mr. Speaker, with the Welsh Government about funding flexibilities and their fiscal framework. We will deliver our manifesto commitment to work with the Welsh Government to address the outdated fiscal framework. Heavy rail infrastructure, as she knows, is not devolved in Wales like it is in Scotland and Northern Ireland, and the Department for Transport settlement provides £1.1 billion cash increase to total budget in 2025-2026 compared to 2024-2025.
Grinstead Medi.
Question number 4.
State.
I have regular discussions with the First Minister of Wales on a range of topics, including, of course, the autumn budget. This budget has delivered for Wales for the first time in a generation. The Welsh Government are receiving the largest settlement in real terms since devolution to support public services like the NHS. And over 100,000 workers in Wales benefit from increases to the national minimum wage and national living wage each year.
I'll try and squeeze it down.
The Barnett form announced that the budget announced that the Barnett formula would apply to funding for agricultural, rather than the devolved governments receiving a ring-fence amount. The Farmers Union of Wales say Barnettisation of funding could lead to a cut of £146 million per year, a cut of over 40%. Can the Secretary of State say if the figure is correct, and whether she believes that her government's budget has showed any consideration at all to our farming communities?
State.
I was very pleased, Mr. Speaker, that the budget was able to protect the current farming budget for the next financial year, despite the difficult decisions we had to make because of the party's opposite trashing of the economy.
Mr. Griffiths, you're continuously always being a nuisance on the front bench. Please, I want you to either restrict it or go and get yourself that cup of tea. Secretary of State.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I was pleased that the budget was able to protect the current farming budget for the next financial year, despite the difficult decisions that we had to make. Obviously, farming is devolved in Wales. The decision of Welsh Government as to how to spend that budget will be up to them.
Catherine Fuchs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I welcome last week's budget announcements regarding improving rail transport. and I want to bang the drum for a most excellent project in Monmouthshire, the Magor Walkway Station. It's ready for investment. In fact, you may even call it oven-ready. Will my right honourable friends commit to working with me, the Rail Minister and Welsh Ministers to deliver the 5 Burn stations? And will she meet with me to discuss progress?
My honourable friend is a wonderful advocate for her constituency and for the Burns Commission recommendations for her constituency, and I'd be very happy to meet her to discuss it.
Show Secretary of State Mims Davies.
Will the Secretary of State express her regret to the House for the Labour budget's impact on Wales, which undoubtedly will make the people of Wales poorer, pensioners left wondering whether they should turn their heating on this winter, destroying family farms and affecting business confidence and employment across the nation?
The biggest ever settlement in real terms since the dawn of devolution. £80 million protected for steel workers and businesses, £88 million for city and growth deals, £320 million for funding through investment zones, £25 million for coal tips, £440 million protected for local communities. I could go on. I think it was a great deal for Wales.
Andrew, she's only got what? Order. Andrew Ranger.
Question 5, Mr. Speaker.
You can't just keep asking questions, Shadow Secretary of State. You're only allowed 2, and that's your second.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The growth mission is the central priority for this government. Our new industrial strategy and National Wealth Fund will boost economic growth across Wales, creating jobs and driving up living standards. Working alongside ministerial colleagues, I was pleased to confirm £320 million of funding for 2 investment zones in Wales, the green light on the Freeport and the Celtic Sea, and protection for local community growth funding across Wales.
Andrew Ranger.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the Secretary of State for that answer. Universities in Wales, such as Wrexham University in my constituency, are not just crucial for the educational and research outcomes they provide, but also in the economic opportunities they give our towns and cities. With a recent report by Universities Wales showing their contribution to the economy standing at £11 billion. At a time when we are firmly in pursuit of economic growth, can the Secretary of State tell me what conversations she has had that will ensure universities in Wales are partners in this mission? And will the Minister agree to visit Wrexham University with me to see firsthand the brilliant work they are doing, working in collaboration with local businesses?
Firstly, I'd be delighted to go back to Wrexham again and visit the university with my honourable friend. Welsh universities will benefit from record levels of investment in research and development worth over £20 billion next year. The budget also confirmed £160 million of funding for the Wrexham and Flintshire Investment Zone, chosen due to the presence of world-renowned research institutions like Wrexham and like Bangor University.
Carolyn Lockhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We say the phrase "no farmers, no food" so often, but never has there been a need for such emphasis in the wake of the autumn budget. Farmers, whether in Wales, Northern Ireland or right across this United Kingdom, are reeling from the change in APR and the impact it will have on the future of family farms. What is the Secretary of State doing to support farmers and making this case in Treasury?
Secretary of State.
I thank the honourable lady for her question. This government continues to provide significant tax relief for farmers. For example, farming parents are able to pass up to £3 million to their children free of tax. They then pay half the normal inheritance tax rate on anything over £3 million, and they have up to 10 years to pay it. The vast majority of farms will be unaffected by the changes in the budget and will continue to not pay inheritance tax.
Jones.
Question number 6, please, Mr. Speaker.
Front bench.
Cutting waiting lists is a top priority for both this government and the Welsh Government. Last week's spending review provided the Welsh Government with its largest real-term settlement since devolution. including an additional £1.7 billion for 2025-26, enabling them to spend more on public services like the NHS. I continue to collaborate with ministerial colleagues in both governments with the aim of driving down waiting lists.
Ruth Jones.
I thank the Secretary of State for her answer, and I welcome this new partnership between the Welsh and the UK Government, which represents a real opportunity to share best practices and help cut NHS waiting lists in England and Wales. So could the Secretary of State expand on how she will ensure that patients on both sides of the border can get access to the best healthcare possible in a timely manner?
Both governments are working collaboratively to make the NHS fit for the future. We provided £1.7 billion boost for Welsh Government to spend on public services like the NHS. The Welsh Government have just announced £28 million to cut NHS waiting times. Both governments are sharing best practice and will consider more cross-border arrangements where capacity allows. The Welsh Government's Ministerial Advisory Group on NHS performance and productivity has been established to support improvements and bring down long waiting lists.
Robin Swan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State will know that health has devolved across all the nations. Can she reassure me that the Secretary of State for Health will work with the devolved health ministers to make sure that we can truly engender a national health service for the likes of mental health across this nation?
Secretary of State.
I know that the Health and Social Care Secretary wants to ensure that the National Health Service across all our 4 nations is fit for the future.
This is Saville Roberts.
The BMA in Wales says that GP funding has decreased as a percentage of the Welsh Government's budget by over 2.6% since 2005. Treflan surgery in Portelli cannot afford to fill key staff roles now. Budget measures will cost them an extra £19,000. Now, the Secretary of State for Wales knows the state of the NHS in Wales. So why is she instrumental in Labour at both ends of the M4 threatening GP surgeries?
Secretary of State.
We are not threatening GP surgeries, and if the Right Honourable Lady does not think that a £1.7 billion additional funding to spend on the NHS in Wales as a result of the budget isn't a great idea, then she needs to say what she would do instead.
Clive Jones.
Number 7, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister. Who's answering?
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. I recently met the Deputy First Minister of Wales to discuss a range of matters relating to farming. In September, the Interministerial Group, meeting on rural affairs, agreed to improve food security and environmental land management by increasing the exchange of data and insights of farming support schemes. I was also pleased to see the budget protecting Welsh farm budgets at current levels for the financial year.
Clive Jones.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State, whilst in opposition, warned that the New Zealand trade deal would push Welsh farmers into bankruptcy and noted that Australian meat is produced at a far lower standard than in Wales. I agree, my constituents want high-quality Welsh lamb, beef and chicken. Therefore, will the Minister push her colleagues in the Department of Business and Trade to review the Australia and New Zealand trade agreement and get it right for our farming communities?
Minister.
Right. Well, the honourable member will know as well as I do that the new leader of the opposition is the one who sold our farmers down the river, negotiating deals with countries like Australia, leaving our farmers open to increasing quotas of imported meat. But I can assure him that this government is committed to promoting robust standards nationally and internationally to protect consumer interests and to ensure that consumers have confidence in the food that they buy. We will consider the full range of tools at our disposal to uphold the UK's commitment to high standards. This includes using our influence in the World Trade Organization and other multilateral bodies to argue for better and fairer trading rules.
Steve Witherden.
Number 8, please, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
Our mission is to kickstart economic growth, and this will deliver good jobs and growth in Wales. Just last month, our International Investment Summit secured over £63 billion in private investment into the UK. Since July, we've secured over £1 billion of investment into North Wales, creating and sustaining 400 well-paid jobs in manufacturing.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Secretary of State has said that economic growth is her #1 priority. Can she say how confirmation of the investment zones in the budget will help contribute to this aim?
Well, yes, indeed, Mr. Speaker. The budget included a total of £320 million as a commitment for the investment zones in Cardiff and Newport and Wrexham and Flintshire. This is a crucial part of our work with Welsh Government to provide a rocket boost to sector strengths like creative industries, life sciences and advanced manufacturing, including our world-leading compound semiconductor cluster.
Shannon.
Speaker, can I thank the Minister very much for that? Minister, when it comes to creating new jobs in Wales, in wind energy, in sea energy, there are great potential. We in Northern Ireland, and Belfast in particular, have the engineering skills to provide those turbines for that energy. So everybody can gain. Wales get the jobs, but we get the jobs as well in Northern Ireland. Thank you.
Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this government is absolutely committed to economic growth across all parts of the United Kingdom.